Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. Did the government get the interim budget wrong and is it now contradicting itself, making corrections? That's one of the issues I shall discuss today with the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Kamal Nath. Minister, on Monday when the acting finance minister presented the interim budget in Parliament, he announced that he couldn't come up with a stimulus package for the economy because constitutional proprieties wouldn't let him. Yet on Thursday, speaking in the Rajya Sabha, he said that he could very possibly do exactly that at the end of the budget debate. So in 3 days flat, has the acting finance minister contradicted himself and done a complete U-turn?
Not at all. Let's look at the first part. There's a proprietary issue. And the constraints are proprietary. Should you, as you said, it's an interim budget. Now, a budget is for 12 months. We are not a government until the elections are over, a government for all the 12 months. After the elections, we will be the government.
But can I say this? If it's a proprietary issue on Monday, how come that proprietary issue doesn't continue on Thursday? And in fact, if there is need for a stimulus for the economy on Thursday, how come that wasn't realized on Monday?
Well, I think you've got it wrong. What he has said in Rajya Sabha is that we can make the announcement, and I think when he's going to reply to the budget debate, he's going to announce that these are the things which government has agreed to, but he's leaving it for the next government to implement. There are certain things which require legislative approval. We do not want to get, at this point of time, into what requires legislative
approval. Let me point out to you what he said in the Rajya Sabha on Thursday. He said, I do hope that while replying to the debate on the budget, I may be in a position to indicate more detailed information. Every single paper in the country has interpreted him to be saying that he will come up with a stimulus package on the end of the budget debate. That's a clear contradiction of what he said on Monday.
It is not a contradiction. The contradiction is in what you read. If you read something wrongly and understand something wrongly, it's no contradiction.
The contradiction is in what he said, and the Business Standard makes it clear. Their front page headline suggests it.
Well, this is going to come to an end in the next couple of days, and you will know that there was no contradiction. What he has said is what is correct, that he can clarify, he can explain when he replies, which he will do. It doesn't mean that he's going to present another budget when he's going to reply at the end of the debate.
It's not just that the finance minister within 3 days has contradicted himself. Unfortunately, he's also ended up contradicting Montek Singh Ahluwalia, the deputy chairman of the Planning Commission. 24 hours after the interim budget, Mr. Ahluwalia told me, A, that there was no need for the government to do more, B, that the absorptive capacity of the economy couldn't take more. Now, if the finance minister is going to announce in 2 days' time that he's doing more, he's contradicting the deputy chairman.
How are you imagining he's going to announce more?
But he said so.
Are you writing his speech for him?
He said so.
He did not say so. His words are very clear and crisp. He says, I will clarify, I will explain, which he will do, and that's exactly what I'm saying.
Let's go back to his precise words. What he said on Thursday, and I'm quoting him almost now, is that the economy has not as yet seen the full slowdown that is going to come India's way. If that is really the case, and he's saying it, then I put it to you that it was irresponsible of him not to have announced measures to protect the economy on Monday itself. Because if the slowdown hasn't completed, if it's going to get worse, you need to act now, and by not acting, he's left the economy unprotected.
We have already acted. We saw this. We saw this 2 months ago. And that is why today you see that our steel sector, our cement sector, our car sector, FMCG sector figures are up. From what you are saying is seen today was seen by us 3 months ago. And if today economies aren't interdependent, today financial systems are not interdependent, but they're interconnected. So when we are seeing a further slide down in Europe and United States, we don't know the quantum of slowdown.
But listen again to the contradiction. This is what the finance minister said on Thursday. All measures necessary to boost the economy will be taken. The support that the Indian economy requires will be given. Yet what did Montek Singh Ahluwalia say 24 hours after the budget to be? He said no more measures are needed. In fact, he said the absorptive capacity of the economy can't take further measures.
Of course.
These are contradictory.
These are not contradictory. It's Montek saying that certain things cannot be done, and the finance minister has not done those. So first your question is, why hasn't he done it? On the second point you're making is that Montek says it cannot be done, so why is he saying he's not done it? So it's explaining it straight away. I mean, both these statements explain what the finance minister has done.
Except for the fact that if you look at the economic papers, the front page headline on Friday of the Business Standard is another stimulus package coming. Are you saying that the papers, are you saying that the members of parliament, are you saying that the country has understood one thing and you have understood something else?
No, the papers have said what they wanted to say. If they say it's coming, do you want the finance minister to agree to what they are saying? They may be saying anything. So
They're quoting him.
they are not quoting him. They are not quoting him that a stimulus package is coming. We have never said that. We have said we have done these things. And these things have already triggered the...
He said that he was going to be meeting with officials of the Finance Ministry and the RBI to work out what further steps are needed. That is so different to saying on Monday that constitutional propriety won't let him act. That's so different to Montek Ahluwalia saying there's no need to act.
Proprietary was there on Monday, proprietary was there on the previous Monday.
But it's disappeared by Thursday.
No,
That's
it's
the
not.
contradiction.
You are meeting officials. It doesn't mean you're meeting officials to announce a
What's
package.
he meeting them for? To have a cup of tea and a general chat?
What do you think a budget is? A budget is expenditure. A budget is putting into place and calculating fiscal deficit. Is to meet officers for that.
No, but if
you're not meeting officers alone.
But if he's telling members of parliament that he's meeting officers and the RBI to work out what he's going to do, and if he then goes on to say that all measures necessary to boost the economy will be taken, that's a clear sign that more is coming. And that's a clear contradiction of the position he took on Monday and of Montek Singh Ahluwalia's position on Tuesday.
I do not know Montek Singh Ahluwalia's position, but I do know that what needed to be done has been done. There is no end to what needs to be done. You got to slowly caliber and do things depending on the slide down of the global economy.
All right, let me approach this a little differently. Already unemployment is rising. Already manufacturing and industrial production is shrinking and export growth is declining. Are you saying to me that over the next 3 months you believe these crises and problems will remain exactly as they are or possibly get better? Or are you saying that over the next 3 months chances are they'll deteriorate? Because if they're going to deteriorate, then you need to take action now to protect yourself. It's only if things are going to stay the same or improve that you don't need to act.
Well, please get one thing clear. The government of India cannot do anything to save the US economy. And the government of India cannot do anything...
about the Indian economy.
No, but let me finish. The government of India cannot do anything to save the European economy. If there's a contraction of demand in those countries and our exports are going down, what are you supposed to do?
It's when your joblessness that's rising, when your exports go down, your joblessness rises further, your industrial production is falling, your manufacturing is falling. Those are areas that are crying out for assistance. FICCI has asked for it, CBI has asked for it. Why are you not acting?
If you expect the government of India to create demand in Europe and the United States, please tell me, how does the government of India do it?
I'm talking about creating demand in India.
Yeah, okay. What is the stimulus package all about which was announced? You're talking about a fall in exports. Now, exports happen because of a contraction of demand there. You are saying, what are you doing about the fall of exports? Now, when you're talking about fall of exports, you're talking about contraction of demand in those countries.
I'm talking about real estate, I'm talking about automobiles, I'm talking about a whole lot of sectors such as steel and cement. I'm talking about demand in India.
The very sectors you are talking about, Karan, today in the newspapers show that the steel sector is a few percentage points better than last year. It shows steel is better than last year. It had 2 bad months, October and November. And the automobile sector has also shown a growth rate. So whatever sectors you're talking about are the sectors which have now recovered after the stimulus package.
Hold on. If the sectors have improved, then why is the finance minister meeting people to decide what to do? Because that's the first contradiction. Secondly, the sectors have only improved year on year. They haven't really shown a proper uptick that suggests that you're out of the woods. Therefore, once again, I come back.
With the global stress, global economic stress, you cannot be out of the woods. The question is, how do you address it? You're going to address it by stimulating domestic demand. We have done that.
Do you know, the question is really this. People are saying that the difference between Monday and Thursday is that the government panicked because of the response from the press, from the opposition, and from industry. Or the government is confused. You've either panicked or you're confused about your analysis of the economy. Which is it?
I don't think there's any panic and I don't think there's any pressure. It was considered. We had interdepartmental, interministerial meetings, and we recognized that there were constraints or proprietary. You cannot start announcing and committing a government. Today, if we had announced something, the opposition and the press would have been at us that you are a government for the next 3 months. Why are you announcing this?
We're going around in circles. If there were proprietary constraints that stopped you on Monday, they'll stop you next week. And yet the finance minister is saying that next week he may be in a position to announce something.
Well, then why don't you wait till next week?
Then
why don't you wait till next week?
Don't you see the contradiction? You can't have constraints on day 1 and not on day 2.
He has not said that he'll announce anything.
Yes, I do hope that while replying to the debate on the budget, I may be in a position to indicate some more.
Some more?
Detailed information about what I'm going to do, about what I'm going to do, about what I'm going to, about what I'm
You are
going
half
to,
reading the sentence.
about what I'm going to do.
No, please read the full sentence.
That I have read it.
No, that's not
I
the
have
full
read
sentence.
it about what I'm going to do. And then he adds, all measures necessary to boost the economy will be taken. And he adds, the support that the Indian economy requires will be given. But on Monday, he had constraints that stopped him. By Thursday, he doesn't. Is this panic?
Karan,
Is
the
this
only
confusion?
thing which will satisfy you is wait 3 days and you'll find there is no contradiction.
Let me put to you.
If you're reading between lines of different newspapers and swinging it around,
I'm reading from the front page of the Business Standard.
Well, then you should read the front page of the Times of India today.
I have.
And
I have.
that will tell you categorically.
Month on month, a small uptick, it doesn't reflect the you're out of the woods. That's why I'm saying don't see too much hope in that.
No, well, I am seeing hope because I'm more to the ground on this.
Let me put something.
I'm not reading just newspapers and making a comment.
Beyond the economics is the image that this has created. On Monday, people were saying that the government is a bit like a doctor who knows the patient is seriously ill, has diagnosed what the problem is, knows what medicine is required, but inexplicably doesn't want to administer the medicine for 3 more months because they think some other doctor should do it.
Well, we are a government who knows what the problem is. We've administered the medicine for 3 months. And your point is, why aren't you administering the medicine for 12 months? That's the difference.
That was the image on Monday. Do you know what the image on Thursday was? And forgive me if I sound a bit brutal and rude. The image on Thursday was not of a doctor, but of a quack who doesn't know what he's diagnosing, isn't sure of his remedy, and is misleading the country.
No, well, I think you got it all wrong. Thursday, what you're reading, what he's saying is absolutely incorrect. You'll wait a few days and you'll know that there's complete consistency on this. You don't have to wait long.
We'll have the answer to this on Monday, maybe on Tuesday, certainly by the 26th of Parliament ends. Let's take a break and let's come back and talk about what next year holds for the Indian economy. Are you rosy in your picture, or are you a bit perturbed and concerned? We'll be back in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Kamal Nath. Minister, let's talk about 2009-2010. If you look at the budget figures that the acting finance minister presented, it seems that the government is expecting a 7% growth in GDP. But the IMF and the World Bank have said that India is likely to see nothing more than 5 or 5.5%. That's a huge difference. How confident are you of your 7% assumption?
We are very confident because we must understand there is a thing called fundamentals. If we look at what the IMF said 25 years ago, or even 10 years ago, and what the World Bank said 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we know what they said. So we are confident of what we are saying. And when we talk of this, we talk of the strong fundamentals of the Indian economy.
So you're saying you're confident of 7% growth in 2009-2010?
As on date. But
on date?
Yes, of course. If there is a further slide down of the global economy, there is a further deterioration in Europe, if Japan goes down and there's more turmoil, well...
But let's come to the conditions that you're laying down in a moment's time. Let's first talk about what you said, that as of now, you are very confident that the economy can achieve 7% growth. The problem is that if you look further at your own budget figures, you're only expecting an increase in customs and excise revenue of 2%, and you're just about expecting an increase in service tax revenue of 6%. That doesn't add up to 7% GDP growth. So what sort of confidence is this?
We are going to have agricultural sector growth, we are going to have manufacturing sector growth, we are going to have services sector growth.
Well, at the moment you're manufacturing...
Together, all these compounded together, it doesn't depend on customs and excise.
Just a moment, just a moment.
I mean, those facts are wrong.
The facts are wrong? They're from your budget?
No, using these facts for GDP growth
just a moment. You say you're relying on manufacturing. Manufacturing shrank by 2% in December, right? So there's not
That's
growth
why we are
there,
7%.
there's decline.
That's why we are 7%.
Agriculture has shrunk from an average of 3.75% a year for the last 3 years to around 2.4, 2.5%. So the growth that you're relying upon doesn't exist.
Well, you know, you compound these. There's a way of calculating.
But you
GDP
can't compound growth when it doesn't exist. What do you compound?
There is growth. You're talking of, otherwise
but it's shrinking growth,
otherwise
not
we talk of
accelerating.
10% growth.
But it's shrinking, not accelerating.
Please remember, if we stuck to the same growth as last year, we'd be having a 10% growth. Because we are not at that, because it's been shrinking, we are talking of a 7% growth.
Let me put something else that is a major concern to the country. You're confident that you can achieve growth, yet your budget figures seem to suggest that there's some internal incalculation or miscalculation. Leave that aside. Time will sort it out. A second area of concern for next year is the fiscal deficit you've ended up with. The finance minister announced it was 6%. The truth is, if you add your off-budget special securities for oil and fertilizer, it comes to 7.8%. If you add the state deficits, it's somewhere between 11 and 12%. Why can't you be more honest and upfront? That will give people confidence.
Where have you got these figures from? The very fact you've got these figures, you haven't got them surreptitiously. These are all open figures. So what do you mean by being honest?
Except that the figure given in the interim budget by the finance minister was 6%, and it isn't the truth. The truth is 7.8%.
Well, all the figures are known. I mean, there's a weighted average. There is a fiscal deficit. We planned a fiscal deficit of 2.5 to 3%. If you let me finish, if you'll understand it, you need to understand this better. We have projected a 2.53% fiscal deficit. Yes, the fiscal deficit has gone up because we've had greater spending. In any economic
but it's gone
slowdown,
up more than you
do
admit.
that.
But
yes,
it's gone up more than you admit. That's the problem.
No,
more
we
than
have
you admit.
not. Why should we not admit it when all the figures are open? How do you know the figures?
I'll tell you.
How do you know the figures? They are published?
Let me answer your question. Montague Singh Ahluwalia, in an interview to me, has himself accepted that in fact it would have been better if the government had accepted that the fiscal deficit is not 6 as the finance minister said, but 7.8. There is already in what you're accepting in public a difference of almost 2%.
You must understand that what we are talking is a fiscal deficit of the previous year.
So that's what I'm talking about.
No. Now, if you say what will be the fiscal deficit, April onwards,
but
it
I'm
could
not
be
talking
8
about that.
or 9%.
But I'm not
we are
talking-
not projecting a fiscal deficit of 6% for the following years.
Minister, I'm not talking about next year's deficit. I'm talking about this year's, and I'm
you
saying that there's a
suggesting-
fudging in
are you
this year's
suggesting
deficit.
that you know figures which are public, and we are figures which we have given to the public, we are now miscalculating it?
No.
I mean, are you suggesting that?
I'm suggesting that there is a difference between what the finance minister said in his budget speech, where he said that the deficit for last year was 6%, and what you can find out when you look at the budget figures, which shows that if you take on board, as you have to, the special securities for oil and fertilizer, the actual deficit is 7.8%. That's the first difference. There's a second difference, even more worrying. The Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council in January, just a few weeks ago, actually said that the deficit was over 8%. So again, there's a difference, as a result of which people say, are they fudging the deficit? Are they worried about its size that they don't want to reveal it? What's the explanation?
Well, you must learn to read figures. And the way you learn to read figures is know that this is relating to the previous months, and that is what relates to the future months. If you ask me that what is going to be the fiscal deficit in the next 12 months, I will tell you it's not going to be 6%, it's going to be more.
Minister,
but if you ask me, what is your fiscal deficit today? I'll tell you 6%.
Minister, you can accuse me of reading wrong figures and misunderstanding them, and that may be your way out of this problem, but the truth is...
There is no problem.
But the truth is that people who actually know that there's a bit of fudging going on won't be reassured by your answer. They'll actually be more disturbed by it.
What do you mean by fudging when you're saying these figures you got from the finance minister's papers only? Where is the fudging in it?
The difference comes between what he says
then
in
what
his speech...
Then what you're saying that he doesn't know how to add?
No. The difference comes from what he says in his speech and what you have to glean from his figures. That's why there's a sense of
the
fudge.
figures in speech have to be taken together. And they are right, because if you ask, it depends what you're reading.
All right.
Now, if you're reading and adding correctly, because when you're talking of fertilizer subsidy, you got to know this is the fertilizer subsidy. This will add up what on 31st March?
All right. You know what you're really saying, and I'll accept it. You're saying that the finance minister just made it a bit more difficult for everyone to understand.
No,
He's actually requiring people to dig through the figures to try and out the true situation, not go by what he's saying.
The finance minister said the right thing, but some people who cannot understand the way these are put will never understand it.
All right, Minister, I'll leave the last word with you. A pleasure talking to you on Devil's Advocate.